All right, we are live. Welcome, Mike,
Well,
to the podcast. Greetings from the fifth dimension. Welcome to Happy Dance's Guide to the Revolution.
Thanks, man.
It's good to have you on, man. Been looking forward to talking to you for a while now here, so it's about time we made it
Yeah,
happen.
it is. We've had a couple little chit chats here and there on Facebook, but it's good to actually be in person seeing you. You know,
Right.
It's been a very long time. You were quite a young kid the last I remember you.
Yeah, I know. Back to our days in North Pocono.
Yep.
And you were a few years older than me. I don't know, what year did you graduate? Like 06 or something?
04.
04.
Yeah, a long time ago.
I know. And I graduated with your sister, went to school with your sister from elementary school all the way up to high school, Sarah. So shout out to your sister. I hope she's doing well.
She is, man. She's doing good.
Good. And your brother, he was between both of you, Jeff, right? I knew him a little bit too.
Yeah, Jeff was right in the middle.
Yeah.
85, 7, and 89.
Nice.
They're all apart.
Cool. Good old Mount Cobb family, just like myself, you know?
Yeah.
And
I still like it. It's home is where the heart is, and
yeah,
this for me, this is the place, you know.
Yep. Yeah, you got to like where you're living, or else it's no fun at all.
You know? Yeah. If you're not enjoying where you're at, you get somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah. And that's something that I'm dealing with right now, trying to figure out my next move in life. Like, I've been all over the place and lived in a couple different cities, but like, well, I don't know what to do next. Trying to figure that out, you know?
I personally, man, I just been winging it. I mean, try what you can, do what you do, keep in there. In the lock, yeah. Sorry about that, man.
That's all right. So, you know, like you said, we've connected on Facebook a little bit because we're friends on there. We have a lot of mutual friends, and we're both, you know, sort of engaging with people and talking about different political ideas, philosophical ideas, whatever you want to kind of classify it as. So something I noticed about you on there is like you kind of you're not like a dick, you know, like some people on there are dicks. Like even I can kind of be a dick sometimes if somebody's kind of like, I feel like they're out of line or whatever, or they're just being like ignorant, you know. But I feel like you do a pretty good job. So I'm wondering, like, is that something that you like actively work on, or is just like your style in general, or like how do you approach all that?
I have always kind of just been that way, I guess. I don't really try to not be a dick. I have to try to be a dick. You know what I mean? I don't think it gets us anywhere if we take things from you fucking this and that snowflake and you effing this and that fascist Nazi blah blah. Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's unproductive and it doesn't really help the situation that we are all collectively kind of stuck here.
Right.
And it's stuck in because it sucks.
Yeah. And I feel like when I've been guilty of it in the past of like name calling or whatever, I kind of feel like it's like trying to take a shortcut out of frustration. Like you disagree with this person like, so fundamentally that it's like, fuck it, just call them whatever you need to call them and move on, you know. But it's like you're right, it's not useful, right? They're certainly not going to listen to anything you have to say after that if they were ever going to listen in the first place, you know.
It does. I mean, I don't know, and I mean, I kind of always felt like an older soul, and I mean, it's not that you're that much younger than me because you're not. It's only probably 5-6 years, if that. I mean, I don't know. I don't see where we're gonna get if that's the point we've gotten to.
Right.
Where I can't ask you a question, you can't ask me a question without us becoming hostile and kind of ridiculous over it.
Right. Yeah. And you know, it's good that we finally got to chat here. It only took a global pandemic to bring us together, so Jesus.
It's hey, but I mean, if that's what it takes, I mean, everyone's stuck inside right now. So I mean, maybe it is a good opportunity to take the time and do something like this. I mean, whether we agree or disagree, at least these thoughts are being documented in some way.
Yeah.
And I mean, anyone could be typing behind the keyboard, behind the screen, but at least now, I mean, it's there.
Yeah.
For better or worse, you know?
Yeah, it's like it's certainly not a good thing that's happening here with the virus and stuff, but it creates opportunities. You know, and if we can take advantage of those opportunities and make the most of them, then maybe we'll come out on the other side of this better people and a better community and a better country and all that.
I would hope so. I mean, it seems to be the trend, but I think it's a little different now than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It just seems a totally different political landscape in general.
Yeah.
It's more, half of the country is always going to be unhappy, it seems, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I don't know how we exactly get past that whole.
Yeah. Well, I think half of the country being happy is almost like an overestimate. Like, I don't know too many people that are happy with the situation, you know, like, sure, you certainly have people who are pro-Trump and you certainly have people who are, you know, pro-Sanders or whatever, but like, they're not really happy. I mean, they're just like fighting and like happy to temporarily stake high ground is all they're really happy to do. It seems like, you know?
Exactly. I mean, I think we're being short-sighted on as far as, like, we should not be arguing over it. We're playing their game.
Yeah.
Exactly. They designed it to be played.
Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons that I chose to register independent versus anything else.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. How did you come to that decision? And like, you've been that way since you turned 18, or tell me about that.
I did not register to vote right away, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do it until I was probably 20, 23, 24, something like that. I mean, you go back and forth. Growing up, you're taught by your parents, this is what's right.
Yeah.
And you don't know any better because your landscape is this big. You know, so you grow up with a certain point of view and some beliefs that have been passed on to you, and they're usually good. As things
froze up on me there. As things
realize
back up.
As you have those beliefs when you're growing up, you eventually get to a point where, you know, you either go to college or you get a job. You meet some people, you talk to some people, and you realize, hey, you know, this little bubble is actually this gigantic bubble that I had no idea about. And I think everybody goes through a little bit of soul searching, obviously, but you know, I was raised Republican, Christian background, and I mean, that's still where most of my family sits, which is not a bad thing. I went the extreme opposite end of the spectrum in my early 20s and what have you. I figured, I mean, I know we were going to probably at some point touch on some of the like conspiracy type stuff. And I mean, I was into that when I was younger, because like I said, you get out of this little bubble you're in, and now everything you've been told is a lie, basically, is how you feel. So, you know, this wasn't as bad as they said it was. Maybe this isn't. And you just kind of go from there and you start trying everything, talking to everyone, seeing what's you, what fits you, you know what I mean? And for me, I mean, it kind of, at the time, I didn't really think so much about the fact that when the primaries come around, you know, I'm kind of.
Yeah, you don't really get a vote there because of the way it's set up in Pennsylvania.
Exactly. But I still think, I mean, I don't want to change that just so that I can, because I don't know if I would pick either one. So like if I was to switch and become a Democrat or switch and become a Republican, what if I actually want to vote for the, you know what I mean? It puts you in a place where you're voting just to vote for someone that don't even necessarily maybe want to be in the election. I mean, I'd almost rather not vote than give someone a vote for the sake of giving them a vote, because that's what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting that the way you kind of brought up when you grow up and your family kind of instills some ideas in you. And I think that happens to everybody, whether it's their family or whether it's like their friends and their friends' families, but that definitely happens. And for me, like I really noticed like a big difference between the people that I was friends with in like high school and stuff, and then like my experience through college and like coming back and like trying to converse with those people. It was like almost like it was like a different language. Like I was exposed to a certain world and they were exposed to a different world, and like trying to merge that, it was like difficult, you know?
It's strange to mesh it. I had a friend that went to Afghanistan like right after high school. So you had everyone was in their first or second year of college, you know. He came back and people started to ask him about it, and he realized that it was not getting through, like the stuff that he was trying to say. Like they thought they wanted to ask questions.
Complete different culture.
Yeah, it's just too different. Like you said, you go out of town for a while, you come back 4, 5, 6 years later.
Right.
Things are different, and that's just always going to be the case. It's always going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, not good or bad. It's just it's different. You know.
Well, I think it is good to be exposed to more things, because ultimately you're able to broaden your understanding of the world, and your exposure kind of increases. And then from that, you have a more complex and complete understanding of things. It's never fully complete, but like, you know, you have a more nuanced understanding.
Exactly. You have more data sets to work off of. You know what I mean? And really, you can't, you know, one data point does not a set make or something from Mythbusters. You know what I mean?
Yes, exactly. Oh, I used to love that show. Those guys are my favorite.
I love that show. Yeah. I like anything like that. I've always been a take it apart, put it back together. How does it actually work type of person?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's where my not being a dick type of, I may challenge the person.
Yeah.
But I'm simply trying to maybe present like a counterpoint.
Right.
Just to force you to think.
Yeah.
Maybe. Hopefully. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying I agree or disagree when I make that counterpoint. I may not believe it myself, but I think it's good to just you gotta try to bend your envelope a little, just a bit.
Yeah. I thought it was funny too, because like when I posted that thing the other day, like last week or whatever it was, kind of comparing China and their response to the coronavirus situation to like the US and our response to Ebola in Africa. And you commented on there, and like kind of the way you started like that first thing, it was like so clear you were trying so hard to like not be a dick, because it was like everything was coded and like I understand this part of it and I understand this part of it, I understand this part of it, but like what about this part of it, you know? And it's like it almost becomes like clouds the point at a certain point too. It's like I almost like lost your question or your point in it, because it was so like layered and like complexity, you know, which is necessary to show that you understand and you're like appreciative of the complexity, you know.
Like you said, it may be apples to oranges, and that's all I was trying to get at. You know, it's there. You can't take anything that happens in this world on a global scale and directly compare it from this thing from 20 or 50 or 100 years ago and try to compare it to another thing. It's almost impossible to do.
You can't even really compare like you and I, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's unfair to like apples to apples compare you and I. Like we're, you know, you're a couple years older. You grew up with a certain set of circumstances. I grew up with a different set of circumstances, whatever, you know?
Exactly. It's, I mean, I understand the benefit in trying to learn from our mistakes. And I mean, I get it. I mean, like I said, my intentions were not to be an a-hole. They were just to say, hey, well, what if, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's what if it's not the same?
Right. And then I think that young woman, Brittany, took it a little bit the wrong way. I know that she lived in Africa for a number of years, and I believe she's even married to a gentleman that she met there. So she probably felt personally, you know.
Yes, because I didn't feel like I insulted Africa, the nation, the people, the countries, the continent. I don't feel, I don't, and knowing that, I can see how maybe,
right.
Oh, this dumb redneck from the woods thinks that, but I get it. It's just, like I said, like, do we really, that's the first place you go?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's sad. Like, you can't ask, like, well, why? What do you mean?
Yeah.
That would have been a better, why?
Yeah.
Why? Simple 3-letter word.
Yeah.
Sentence, a word, and 3 letters, and a question mark.
Yeah. Well, it's a good word too. It's probably one of the best words because I like the quote. I've heard this, I think, on a TED Talk. People don't buy what you do; they buy why you do it.
Yep. Why do you do it?
What do you believe? Like, why? Because what you believe guides your actions. That's like your why for things. You know?
Yeah. I mean, if you have, and that's why she felt that I insulted it. Not knowing that, I get it, but I just didn't appreciate like the lack of trying to.
For sure.
It's just, I mean, listen, there's sensitive subjects out there. I understand.
For sure.
If you're not aware of them, you can't just knee-jerk react because you know a certain set of things and assume that the rest of the world knows these set of things when they don't.
Yeah.
I mean, she could have explained that.
Yeah. I think too that under normal circumstances, there's already like some tension in online communication and like a tendency to take shortcuts. But like with the coronavirus on top of everything else, like I feel like a lot of people are like on edge. Like everyone's just like ready to just snap at people.
Oh, I have been. I had like a little mini freak out Friday night. I just stressed, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not working. I mean, not really making what I'm used to making. It's difficult for a lot of people. It's a strange thing. I've not seen it in all my years. Not that there's that many of them yet, hopefully, but
it's very strange.
Don't remember this ever happening. And we've had these type of pandemics, outbreaks, and whatnot, what have you.
This is uncharted territory. For sure.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So when we were talking a little bit, you mentioned that you were classified as an essential worker. How does that feel, man? Like, is that cool? Or are you kind of like, what do you think about that?
You know, it is, but all the memes, I mean, they kind of leave out the sewer environmentalist type classification. And I mean, yes, like the people at Walmart or the pharmacy, the doctors, the nurses, but it's the kind of thing you don't think about until your toilets or shower don't work.
Yes.
And I did not even know this field existed until we had problems with that. Yes. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I work 2 miles from home. This business has always been there.
Yeah.
I never knew it existed. Not once. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting being out there and about while, I mean, man, the highways, I mean, not so much right now, but like a week or two ago, we're driving down the road and it was like a little black car came up past us at like 110. Whoa. There's no one. You look behind you for 5 miles, there's no one. And in front of you for 5 miles, there's no one. So, I mean, get it, bud, I guess. I don't know. This is your chance.
Yeah.
There's no one to hurt except yourself. So.
Right. Yeah. And like, I would imagine that cops probably aren't really pulling people over that much either.
No, they weren't.
They don't
really
want to talk to people or deal with people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man.
It's a strange feeling to be on the highway and not see another vehicle for like your entire 20-minute journey.
Yeah.
Not or except that little one that just gone.
It's like walking around in a ghost town.
Yeah. It was so surreal, man. It was so odd.
And then like when I went to the grocery store and stuff like last week, it's so weird because it feels like people are like really desperate for like some some socialization because a lot of people are isolated, but like they're also like very hesitant to like close that gap. So it's just like really awkward, like, you know, it's just really strange.
It is like, you know, you want to go shake their hand, but then you don't. You're like, maybe not. It's and you can tell it's like it's like a first blind date or something.
Yeah.
With everyone, it's kind of like a weird, awkward silence half the time, almost. Not so much physically silent, but you know, connection wise to people.
I mean, like speaking of dating, this whole thing, and like obviously I wasn't even alive when like the AIDS pandemic was like happening, but it kind of reminds me of that. It's like we're kind of in this state of like, oh, I could get like this from this person if I like interact with them, and it's like it's true, you know, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, they joke about, you know, the internet dating sites and whatnot are gonna, you know, have a little bit of a boom here, but it may be the truth because I mean, no one's really going out and doing anything. So
no, it's not a good time to be dating right now.
No, no, it is not. And it's hard in your 30s. Let me tell you, it's different. It ain't the same as it used to be, you know?
No.
I don't know what changed, but something did.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard. Everyone's got to make time. And it's when most time is given to someone else anyway. I mean, you're either trading it for a dollar bill or what have you.
Yeah.
It is difficult.
Trading it for money, trading it for something that you like, and then trying to find time to squeeze another person in there that you also like is a challenge, you know?
Yeah. It's tough. Everyone's got their own stuff going on. You know, I tell Jeff all the time, it's not like people from 10, 15 years ago in high school don't want to see you. It's not that they don't want to talk to you. It's just people grow up, they have kids and they move to here or there and they got stuff going on, and it just is what it is. I mean, there's people I would take a bullet for that I have not talked to in 20 years. Doesn't mean I don't think about them at night or say a little prayer for them or something. It's just people move apart. Like you said, you go away and you come back and it's like you're talking to a different person. Well, time changes people, you know, and the time where you spend that time changes people.
Yeah.
Like you said, you know, which is a good thing.
Yeah. Or sometimes I feel like you're talking to the same person, but like you're a different person. You know, it's like you see like your old self and you're like, oh man, like I don't really like relate to that person in that same way or as strongly as I once did or whatever. You know?
Maybe you guys used to skateboard together, but now that's the only thing that you have in common is that 10 years ago you used to like this same subject, but now everything's totally different.
Right. Neither of you have skateboarded in a decade. And so let's jump ahead here. I want to get your thoughts on the Declaration of Interdependence that I wrote and kind of like the overall theme of the podcast and the aim of the movement, and just kind of get because it seems like you're genuinely interested in it and supportive of it in some way. So I kind of just want to get your thoughts on what we're aiming for here.
Like I said from the beginning, whether I don't agree with a single thing you have to say or not, I think it is important that we do stuff like this. Like it is necessary to kind of be involved. It used to be cool if you were involved. Now it's kind of like it's hard. It's hard to really put it into words for me because I appreciate what you and other people are doing by trying to document and understand different points of views and or whatever, you know. It's good. It's a good thing. I don't know, like I wish there was more of an impact from, like, if everyone cares so much, why are we still bogged down in this? I don't know, man. It's a good movement, and I'm glad that people are getting involved in it. I think we focus too much on the big stuff, like who's going to be president. What about your local this, that, or the other? That's a lot of the people that eventually become a senator or a representative or even the president. I mean, they start out at the local level and they move up and they move up and they move up and they keep going and keep going. And I think that, I mean, I would like to see more of a focus put on, you know, your local elections. And I mean, listen, when I went to vote in my local elections, I only knew 3 names on the whole entire ballot.
Yeah.
That's not good. I'm not, I never heard their name before.
Yeah.
They may have lived 10 minutes from me my whole life. Like I said, it's
yeah. Those positions like township supervisor, although it's like an important position and it's a good, you know, a good political position for somebody to be in. It's not exactly like sexy. It's not going to make like national news, you know.
It's not gonna. And I'm surprised that it doesn't make local news.
Yeah.
Really, as much as it should.
Right.
I mean, I know that, you know, today we're so interconnected with everywhere on the planet. It's easy to overlook the local part of things. You know what I mean? You go to work every day and you come home and you never think about who is running the things that you depend on daily. Yeah. It's not Donald J. Trump. You know, it won't be Biden or Bernie. They will not. I mean, I hate to say it, dude, but I don't think any of them really. That's another reason I registered how I did. I don't know if they really care. I don't know if they know enough to care. You know,
Bernie started off as an independent. He won his first election as an independent.
I used to really dig Bernie. I did. I mean, I still kind of, I like Bernie as a guy. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's a good dude.
Yeah.
He served in the armed forces. He was a medic, I think. You know, that right there kind of gives a little insight to his character deep down. I mean, if you're going to join the armed forces and you're going to be a medic, you know, not to say that everyone's a Desmond Doss, if you know who he is. From a subjector who basically went into battle and refused to even take a rifle with them and saved countless lives, both on the U.S. side and some Japanese. You know, he was.
Yeah, I saw the movie like with Andrew Garfield, right?
Yeah, similar.
What the hell was that called?
Man, what was it? Oh.
Hacksaw Ridge.
Yeah, Hacksaw Ridge. That's yep.
Same guy, right? It's a story of him. Right?
That was the story. That was based on his service, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
But I mean,
back to the podcasting, like what I feel like this is doing for people is like there's no shortcuts here. Like there's no shortcuts like the name calling. Like we're gonna have a conversation and it's gonna be a half hour to 2 hours long. And we got time. Like if there's something that you want to say or like communicate, you know, this is where we can exercise our freedom of speech in a way where we don't have to yell over each other. We don't have to name call. We can kind of talk about how we feel about things, the facts as we understand them, you know?
Yep. Yeah. And well, I mean, it's a good way to put it, as we understand them, because that's a big kind of hidden part of it that people forget sometimes, right. You know, right. I believe that certain things are right for me, but I don't believe that they're necessarily right for you. Going back to what Big Tom Ritter said, you know, he said, when I was growing up, what was right for us as kids your age is probably not necessarily right for you at this age in this time. It's a different time.
For sure.
I go even further. I mean, yes, the podcast allows us to kind of get in touch and like really exercise our rights, which is always good. But we just have to remember that like, I don't know. It's difficult because what's right for me may not be right for you and vice versa.
Yep.
And what's right for someone in San Francisco may not be right for someone in rural North Dakota. It's how do you, all of these, you know, opposing positions, how do we, this is a very good step towards that. Like I said, we're face to face. I'm, you know, looking at you, you're looking at me, and we're having this discussion about stuff. And I think that's the main point. And I think that's unfortunately, we've forgotten how to talk like this.
Yeah.
I think it would be better if every time you Facebook or Twitter or anything, if you were typing, if your face popped up and said, yeah, I said this, you know what I mean?
Right.
It would be different, I think.
Yeah, because it would be more difficult to confuse tones, and it would be, your intent would come across more easily because we're social beings. Like, we read body language, we read like all this stuff subconsciously. So when you see it like in text without context, your brain interprets it like however it wants to interpret it. So if it's like perceiving this person as attacking you or like the enemy, then it's coded in that language sort of automatically without you even understanding it.
Yep. Had that have been a face-to-face discussion the other day on that Facebook post, it would have never went where it did. Not in one way, no way. Not a 100% chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
and like when you brought up like North Dakota and versus like somewhere like San Francisco, the thing that comes to mind to me is like tolerance. Like, we had to find a way to be tolerant of other people's views. Like, an example that I like to point to is like abortion. It's such like a hot button issue, and like I'd certainly lean pro-choice, definitely. But I also
pro-choice. I literally mean the choice. I am not a woman. That baby will not be formed inside of my body from my cells and blood and the oxygen that I breathe and the nutrients that I take in. I would wish that like the man's opinion, if need be, was taken into account, kind of like in a custody situation, 50-50 rights. But I understand that I'm never going to have to personally make or live with that decision.
Right.
It is a big hot button issue.
Yeah.
I understand why, but I'm not going to have to deal with it.
Right.
So who am I to tell you what you can? And I am a true libertarian in the sense that as long as you are doing whatever you are doing, and it does not negatively affect me or my family, I don't care what it is.
Right.
I don't care. If you like to jump off of bridges with no bungee cord or parachute, go for it. I mean, hey, you might grow wings. I don't know, but it's not affecting me, and I would defend your right to do something like that if you so desired.
Right. The kind of the direction I was trying to take that too is that like, if as an individual, if like we can't have a broad enough understanding to like see both sides of issues, that like one person might see abortion as like morally wrong act, like in itself, and like therefore stand against it based off those things. But also the other side of it of like women's right to choose like her body, like her life, like her circumstances that we don't really know, and you have to be able to like live with both those simultaneously and have the what's the word I'm looking for, like to be able to coexist with both types of people and understand that there's truth in both, right?
The light side and the dark side. Not that I'm putting one connotation to it. I'm just positive and negative are always going to coexist. I mean, you're a science guy. You know what I mean? We need those positive charged electrons and whatnot all coexisting in the same field simultaneously.
Right.
And they repel each other, but they keep each other intact at the same time. And I think if we could get back to somehow, I don't know how we do it.
Yeah.
We need to calm down a little bit. We need to take a couple deep breaths as a collective society.
Yeah. And like check our egos a little bit, because something I see happening is like people stake moral high ground. That's kind of how I classify it. So like they're pro-life. So like they stake moral high ground that because I'm pro-life, I'm right. And like, because I'm right, you're wrong. And I don't have to listen to anything you have to say because I have moral high ground and you don't care about whatever, you know? And it's like, that's the wrong way to go about it. Like,
yeah, it's the same for me. It's hard to talk about gun rights and gun issues.
ooh, let's do that anyway, though. Even if it is hard, let's do it. Let's get into it.
It's difficult because people don't, if you are so fixed in your beliefs that you are not even willing to, like you said, you took the moral high ground or whatever,
right?
You can't even have a discussion. I am quashed before I can even get the words out of my mouth, because it's like, oh, but you don't want people to keep dying, right? Well, of course not. You know what I mean? Of course not.
Of course.
But I mean, ask away. I mean, I'm more than willing to. It's a subject that I am.
Yeah. So I assume growing up in Mount Cobb, and given that you seem like you're generally pro-gun, is that something that you grew up with? Is that something that, like, you tell me about your experience with that, and then after we kind of talk about that, I want to kind of see if there's any sort of like regulations or restrictions around gun ownership or gun use that you do feel is appropriate. Like, where is the line, if there is a line?
That's we'll get to the lines and possible ideas about what we can try to do.
Yeah.
It is something I grew up with. I have been shooting both archery and rifles mainly since, I don't know, I was 12 or 13.
Yeah.
I took my hunter safety course when I was 14. I went in the woods when I was 14. I mean, they've always been there. They've always been, my dad used to bring us to school and had the rifle in the back in the window. I mean, this is how much different things are today.
Yeah.
From what they were. I mean, we have a rifle team at North Pocono.
Yeah.
Nobody has picked up one of those, and I feel like, oh my God, if someone hears me say this, you're gonna be like, aha, I can, you know what I mean? It's a dangerous kind of tiptoe you have to do these days around an issue that is so centrally, it only exists to preserve all of the other rights that we were given. And that's why I am so strongly against regulating it to any further degree that does not in some way pay off for me, as well as for someone who does not own guns and does not ever wish to see one. Yeah. I mean, I understand they can be intimidating. My best friend, I brought him to the range with me probably 8 years ago. He would not get out of the car.
Whoa.
Okay, wouldn't get out of the car. All I wanted him to do was sit next to me and hold the spotting scope and tell me if I was high, low, left, right, where I was. It was a new gun. I was trying to get it dialed in.
Yeah.
Even leave the vehicle. I was like, all right, dude. I mean, hey, if you really want, that same person now owns like 8 different firearms, all calibers. He's totally into it. It's something, once you try it, it's not as dangerous as it. I mean, I don't know, dude. It's hard because it's no more dangerous than anything else that you would choose to inflict pain and suffering on anyone else with, really. I mean, yes, the ability to do so in a more efficient manner is inherent.
Sure.
But, I mean, things like the founding fathers never pictured ARs. Well, maybe not, but they had the Gatling gun and they had semi-automatic auto-loading rifles. Like, this is not new technology per se. And I mean, I hate to be like, I don't want to sound like I'm on Fox News or CNN or any of that. I mean, these are points that have been brought up in the mainstream media, but I think they're brought up more as a look at this crazy gun nut idiot type thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the truth is that it's the facts, really. I enjoy it. There's something kind of zen about knowing that it's just you and the target and you're breathing. I mean, it's just like going fishing for me. It's the same casting the pole, waiting in the pond. I mean, there's just something nice about it. Now, I understand that there are people who don't know the first fucking thing that I'm talking about and go out and kill 100 people for no fucking reason.
Yeah.
and they use the exact same thing that I just described as Zen to do so. It is such a man, dude. It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's freaking nuts. We wouldn't be having this conversation if it weren't for like 12, God forbid, disturbed, mentally off the friggin' hinges, I don't know what evil type of people. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. It's something. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Americans are 700,000 hunters in PA every season, and almost nothing. No one dies. Yes, it happens occasionally. I get it. Accidents happen with anything.
Sure.
People crash their car, you know.
Yeah.
Not beat that dead horse.
Sure.
You know, analogy,
sure.
but
sure.
It's. I don't know. I mean, listen, the requirements to pass that
compare like pretty. You got like the First Amendment and you have the Second Amendment. So the First Amendment is like speech, religion, petition, assembly, freedom of the press, all that stuff, right? And there are some restrictions on those freedoms. Like, for example, like I can't say like, fuck you, Mike, I'm going to kill you and your whole family. Like, I can't say that. That's illegal to say that because it's a threat, you know, and I also can't yell like fire in a building that's not on fire. It's illegal because it causes panic, you know. And there's like hate speech. I can't like go on about hating this certain group of people and how they deserve. Like, there's certain restrictions with respect to freedom of speech that we all kind of acknowledge and accept as reasonable compromises, and that they don't actually like prevent our free speech at all, you know? So if you apply that same logic to like gun ownership, I wonder if there is like reasonable restrictions that we can put that make sense, you know? And you bring up cars because something I've talked about, I think once on this podcast before, is like, I think it would make sense to treat guns like we treat cars. Like when you're 16, you can go get a permit. There's no like restrictions on you getting a permit. No one's telling you can't do it. No one's telling you can't buy a car. You know, you got to pass a basic written test and you got to pass a basic performance test. And then you're basically free to operate that vehicle for the rest of your life as much as you would like, you know? And I think if we applied something like that to guns, it could work. I don't know. What do you think about that?
I did do that though. Now, not everyone has to take a basic safety training class, which I absolutely, I would support that as long as it does not cause some undue financial burden.
Right.
Because that's where we're going to go with this inevitably, is the cost involved in training. It is not cheap to get private range time with a qualified law enforcement or military instructor. It can cost thousands of dollars for a simple 3-day course. Thousands, 5,000, 7,000, 9,000. I mean, then you have the cost of ammo on top of that. So now you have to pick whatever said weapon you want to go train with. I mean, I took the hunter safety course, and if you follow the basic commandments of gun ownership, do not point it at anything you do not wish to destroy from this earth permanently. Know what your target is and what's beyond it. Always treat a firearm as if it's loaded. Always point the muzzle in a safe direction. I mean, there are, if you follow those basic, just like cars, if you teach people the basic fundamentals and the seriousness of the repercussions, if these rules are not followed, they can be life and death, just like with an automobile. So, I mean, I would be for making it mandatory that everyone takes something like the hunter safety course and at least show that you understand. But I mean, once again, I mean, yes, I would be for something like that, but is it really going to stop the bad guy? That's I think where a lot of gun owners go.
Same thing with cars too, right? Someone can go steal a car and drive it down the road and run people over with it, or go in a high-speed chase. Like, you can never fully prevent somebody from operating outside of the rules.
I am for reasonable measures. I am for training. I am for information. I mean, those are all very important things. Those are things that were instilled in me at a very early age.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I mean, they're not bad, but it's the kind of thing. Gun owners are like very, you start here and then you go here and then here and then here. Like where, like if we can sit down and hash this out, that this is a one time, once and forever, because shall not be infringed is pretty, I mean, I don't know. It's argued because they gave you the right to practice your own religion and speak your mind and be who you want to be first. That was the very first thing they wrote down on paper.
Yep.
After that was the thing that enables you to ensure that you can do that first thing. All the other ones protect the ones preceding them in a way. Right. And it's especially true with the first and second. It's kind of hard for me to see an argument against the fact that if you were going to write out 10 things, you wouldn't put the most important first, and then the thing that allows you to protect that most important thing right immediately following it,
right,
with such language as they wrote it in.
Yeah.
I mean,
shall not be infringed.
Debate whenever that wasn't written. But I mean, safety courses, mandatory safety courses, and training, basic training. I mean, yes, I do that on my own with every firearm I buy. I read the instructions. I read the manual. I'm interested in how it functions.
Yeah.
So that kind of just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
I like the mechanical aspect of it, but it also does serve a very real and necessary purpose. I mean, you know, I have guns that have no safety, and you have to make sure that you let everyone around them know, hey, if you see this out, remember that, you know, XYZ, do not touch it. Yeah. First of all, it's not yours. We're all adults here, and I do keep them locked up when I'm not home. But when I'm home, you know what I mean? It's take them out, clean them, shoot them, do whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Mm-hmm.
But I didn't mean to go off on such a tangent.
No, I wanted to hear what you had to say about it. And then, like, I think one of the main reasons that I consider myself pro-gun is because it creates this like layer of redundancy, right? Like, we have the police. Like, if you're in trouble, you can call the police, and the police can kind of help you out. But like, what if they don't come, or like, what if
cell phone's not with you? What if you don't have the ability? What if there's 5 of them? What if you're 100 pounds and a girl? I mean, you can call and wait for the police, but what are you going to do in the meantime? Tell them to just hold on a second?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's not an option.
Yeah. And the layer of redundancy that it provides too, with like, against our own government and against other governments. Like, if the federal government were to decide that like you are the enemy, like, you have to be able to protect yourself against even them. Or if, God forbid, if like, I know we're like one of the strongest militaries in the world, so like the thought of somebody invading us and doing anything is like kind of seems impossible. But like, God forbid something like that were to happen, there's a layer of redundancy. Like, you can still protect yourself, you can still protect your family. Like, that distributed network of like sovereign beings is like what creates a free state, you know?
It does. And one of the Japanese generals said, you know, the reason we will never attack America is because there's a rifle behind every blade of grass. And he's right. Yeah. And if you took maybe Pennsylvania, Ohio, like pick 3 northernish states, our hunters alone are the largest mobile armed force in the entire world. Wow. 3 states, like take Pennsylvania, Vermont, and Ohio. That's it. Yeah. Larger military in the world.
Wow.
Trained, they know how to use it. It's a staggering number. What, there's a gun for at least 1 gun for every person in this country. It's kind of, I mean,
a lot.
That's a lot. And any country, you got these other countries, they couldn't invade. They couldn't. Who are they gonna have do it? They're gonna go against people like me who have been in the woods since I was 14 years old. And this is the first time they're picking up a rifle. They don't even know how to aim it and shoot it. It would be very stupid for a foreign power to come over here and try to mess with us. You know, military, God bless them. I have lots of friends who served and continue to serve, but it's not just them. It's all of us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we would all die for our families here at home if shit went that way.
Sure.
You know, and like you said, even domestic. I don't like to talk about it, but it's one of those things. I mean, they put it there, like you said, as a redundant option against the fact that, you know, hey, if George Washington decided to be King George and, you know, flipped the script on everybody back in the day, hey, they were able to take care of themselves. I think it's about self-sufficiency.
Yep.
It really is and you have to be a responsible person about it, but you're taking responsibility for your life and everyone's around you when you do own something that is capable, just like when you take people for a ride in your vehicle.
Same thing. That's how I agree. It's the same thing.
Their life.
You have to take it seriously. You know, you're putting everybody's life potentially in danger if you're not taking it seriously. And accidents happen, you know?
Yeah, they do. They do.
So what do you think about, like, so obviously hunting rifles are like one category of this, and like that's pretty easy to defend that because people want to hunt, and it makes sense to kind of use that as a form of defense too, a little bit. And then you have like things like handguns, which are like another category. Like those are pretty much only for killing people, you know, so people kind of look at those a little differently. And then you have things like assault rifles, which are like made for war, basically, like maximum efficiency of killing another human from a range at which they can't really kill you as easily, you know? So like, what do you think about those? And should they be treated differently? Should there be anything in place to like restrict access to those or encourage any type of participation in some sort of program? Or what do you think about how to treat those differently, if at all?
First, to treat them differently, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And the range at which my hunting rifle could get a target versus an AR-15, not even remotely freaking comparable.
Yeah.
And as far as, I mean, we could get into terminal velocities and ballistics and charts and graphs and grains and weight and velocity and this and that. We could get into like the nitty gritty, but we don't have to.
Sure.
You know, F equals M times V. Yeah, I mean, it's simple. You push a larger projectile faster, it creates more energy. I mean, the hunting rifle rounds are vastly more efficient at doing what they do than what is essentially an overpowered pea shooter of a rifle. I mean, now on the other hand, restricting access to them, where do you draw that line? Where, yes, I agree, some people shouldn't have them. I think we do a damn good job at making sure they don't. It's tragic when these things happen that have brought this up as an issue. I mean, pre-1985, you could have a fully automatic, whatever you wanted, Thompson submachine gun, and it was no big deal. You know what I mean? It's yeah, you know, I mean, people still have them. I can apply for a permit from the FBI. It'll take 6 months, a year, 2 years, whenever they get around to it, basically.
Yeah.
And I could have an M60 belt-fed machine gun. I mean, you can still, that, to treat something like that as the same as small arms semi-automatic, they're really, I think if people really truly research the differences between, yes, an AR-15 may be able to fire more rounds per whatever.
Yeah, per minute, per 10 seconds, whatever you want to call it.
Second, yeah, you have more in the magazine potentially than like a hunting rifle or a shotgun, but don't tell me that under the right circumstances, a shotgun couldn't take 40 people down in a minute, because it 100% could. They're really, it's a dangerous slope, because then what happens if the government does turn around on us? What do you have left? You're basically fighting a more technologically superior force. I mean, they've had air support and drones. I mean,
Yeah.
the least you could give me is an AR-15.
Yeah.
The least to try to, because that's, I mean, you agree that is why that law, that
I agree. That's why it's there.
was for that reason.
Right.
You know, it's not about hunting, and it's sort of about personal defense, but personal defense is a broad category. Right. It's personal defense from what? And I mean,
yeah,
you have to treat it with more respect than it's hard because every gun can kill.
Yeah. So going back to the car analogy and like treating it like we do cars, I would kind of compare like assault rifles to almost like a motorcycle. Like there's like a different, because it's more dangerous, because there's more potential to like hurt yourself or hurt somebody else. There's like a different licensure process for a motorcycle in most states than there is for a car. So
it's a different written and physical test.
Right.
However, it is not any more inherently, I don't know, and I'm not picking on you when I say this, but it's no more inherently dangerous than any other firearm. You still have to rack around into the chamber, take the safety off, aim it, and shoot it. And that's really, whether it's a handgun, your hunting rifle, a 22, a shotgun, an AR-15, or even a fully automatic weapon, it's the person behind it, man. And like, it's hard to put your faith in people these days to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. I think that's what the real underlying, it's not the guns that, and you've heard this, we've all heard this a million times, not the guns that are the problem, it's the people that are, I get it. But I really think it sounds too simple of an answer to be anything but a dodge for the question, which it is sincerely not. It's just nothing. I don't know if there's really, listen, dude, cops lose their minds and kill their families. It happens. It happens.
Yeah.
And they are the most vetted, I mean, law enforcement, military guys. I mean, the stress they're under at all times.
Yeah.
If you can't eliminate them from doing anything wrong as a human being, a fallible being who makes mistakes and has ups and downs and good times and bad, like, I mean, yeah, you could just get rid of them. Just get rid of the Ferraris and the crotch rockets and the ARs and the sporting rifles and just get rid of them. But there's, like I said, how many are out there? 100 million?
Yeah. And you can't once you open Pandora's box, it's hard to close it again. You know, it's like cell phones. Like, we're not going to give up our cell phones.
Yeah.
You know? It's
Go
like,
back to dial-up, bro.
You know?
Beep, 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 kids don't even know what that is. You know what? You remember it, but
the dial-up. Yeah.
15-year-old son is bitching about the speed of his internet. It's like, David, do you even know? Do you even know what it was like? We would come home and wait 3 hours for AIM to come up so that we could talk to our friend. You get home at 4, you were connected by 7:30 if you were lucky.
Yeah.
It's like you said, we're never going to go backwards. And I think we should. I think the number of, it's hard to say without sounding like an insensitive jerk, but I don't think there's much more that we could do that doesn't place some sort of undue either financial or restrictive burden on people. Listen, I followed the law. I had to go, they put my ID on file. They have to keep the records for 25 years. It's like a 6-page friggin' pamphlet that you got to fill out. And then they call the friggin' state police and the FBI over the phone, and you got to sit there and wait. And it's, I don't know. I mean, it's like, reasonable background checks. We already have them. I don't know who thinks we don't. Go and try and buy a gun, and you'll understand. You know what I mean? What the process is. And I mean, the process for even more dangerous weapons is even more strict and scrutinized, almost to a degree of a turnoff. You have to purchase the weapon. Say it costs $10,000. you have to purchase the weapon and you cannot receive it until, so you have to put that money up front. And then what happens if you get turned down? Now that money is basically could be gone forever. I mean, who'd you give it to, and what are they going to do with it when you get denied? I mean, most gun shops are,
pretty legit.
Yeah, but I mean, you could go to roll call and rent some submachine guns and belt-fed machine guns and shoot them there for the day. I mean, I wouldn't advise trying anything stupid because they're all law enforcement and military guys up there, but it's cool that they allow the public the chance to experience. That's what I mean. If we went up to roll call and fired an AR-15 and then we brought out a real deal M16 or M4, you'd be like, holy fuck, there is no comparison.
Yeah.
It's that kind of difference. I don't know. It gets a bad rap because it looks like a gun of war, but it's a kit car. It's a Pontiac Fiero with a 1962 Dino Ferrari body on it. It's not worth $20 million. It's a Fiero. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what it is, really.
Yeah. And there's always the challenge too of like creating policies that maybe make sense on paper and then like enforcing them. Like if you required, for example, people to have permits to open carry, like, and then there was like a protest of a bunch of people open carrying, like good luck enforcing that. Like it's kind of it's not an easy thing to do,
No, well, like you said, it's already the cat's out of the bag. I don't know, man. I don't know. Like I said, I'm totally for training and knowing what you're getting yourself into, and maybe even like a short cooling off period like some states did. I mean, I think every state should be able to. I don't think the federal level should be involved really at all, except protecting our freedoms and like maybe like general taking care of shit around the country.
Sure.
I don't really want them involved in anything that we could be enforcing and policing and enacting on
at the state or local level. I agree. And then kind of that connects me to kind of like another question or kind of topic related to this is like militia programs. Like, again, this is like a policy that I might think is a good idea. How to actually enforce it, I have no idea. But like if you were going to get an assault rifle or a weapon that would be, a non-hunting weapon, should you be encouraged or required to like register for your local militia? And then you have like annual or like every 6 months you have like meetings and kind of check in, and there's like basic training that's offered and stuff and like programs in place. That way, like if the federal government or like another national government were to, create a problem, like you'd actually be more prepared to respond to that because you're like familiar with your local militia. You have like a plan in place. You like know what to do,
It's not a bad on like the basis of it. Like you said, now doing it, that may be another thing.
Sure.
It's not necessarily a bad idea. And like we've had this conversation, and I mean, I'm glad we're talking about it again here. We kind of, at least very localized, we kind of already do that on our own.
Yeah.
So I don't know what benefit documenting my name, weapon type, and how many rounds of ammunition I currently have and giving it to some government official to do with whatever they please. I don't see it's kind of like internet privacy laws almost in a way. Like who do you give it to and why and what do they do with it? And do you really trust them to do what they're supposed to do with it? I don't trust my government that much, unfortunately. Now, there are organizations like that do already exist. They are privately, done. They're enforced. They may have their own membership requirements or rules, or, you have to have a meeting, kind of like a fishing or hunting
club.
Exactly. Yeah. You have a meeting at this guy's house on this Sunday, and then you rotate and talk about stuff. I mean, we kind of do that on our own.
Good.
I don't know. I mean, the communication, if the internet was to go down and the phones were to go down, we don't have sat phones and the technological requirements that would be necessary to form a united 1 million person force overnight. Now, at least not by phone or some communications device of the higher order. I mean, now you do have lower tech forms of communication that have always existed. I mean, people do know how to use radios and, you know, CBs and what have you. I think if things really went that way, I know of at least 15 people that we've already had this discussion about where and when and why and who meets and how much. And like and then one of you out of those 10 or 15 people knows this other guy from this other set of 10 to 15, 20 people. I think it would naturally just kind of coalesce into what it needed, because that's what was done. That's what was done. I mean, it's if your comms go black, you're back to hand signals and, you know, cans with the friggin' string coming out to another can down the road. I mean, that's kind of years in the air. I mean, you're back to that stuff. And I mean, the fact that I'm talking about it is kind of, I mean, we have thought of these things.
Sure. Good.
I mean, not to say everyone has.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's.
I guess I would just hope that there was like a good organization in place and a plan in place, so people wouldn't be like operating as an individual necessarily during these stressful times, but rather as like a team. Because I think you're probably more effective that way.
Yeah, always. If you know the people next to you and you know what their capabilities are, I mean, natural leaders kind of stick out. It is, I mean, it's something that, yes, I mean, like I said, there are documented, enlisted militia outfits and guys like that does exist. Now, I don't think we should force people who don't feel comfortable in that position and then necessarily at the same time say, okay, well, then you don't have to have this. If your goal is to only protect you and your 5 family members, one AR-15 between 5 people is really not what you're going to call an incredible amount of firepower.
Right.
When you're talking like real hardcore, like we're talking, if a militia needs to be mobilized, we are in deep shit. Things are not going as planned. And once again, like Big Tom said, you know, you're taking things that were 3 rounds per minute, and now you're taking them to 250 per minute. I mean, the body count would be just ridiculous. It's something I don't like thinking about.
Yeah.
I would so far as go to say, hey, you be the Northeast United States, you be the Northwest, the Southwest, and the Southeast United States. Like, we just split into 4 different countries before that shit happens.
Yeah.
It's a much simpler and less horrible friggin' option to go down.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. You mentioned, too, in our earlier conversation about having a sword and getting a cut on your hand from the sword. So tell me about that, too. Is that something that you've been doing for a while, too? Or is that something you got into recently? Or, like, what kind of sword is it, and what do you do with it?
It's a katana. I do have, like, wooden bokken training swords. I mean, unfortunately, there are no kendo clubs in the area, so most of the study that I do is self-study. Sure. I mean, reading, watching, I mean, participating in classes via YouTube or FaceTime, stuff like this. I mean, there's other options. I don't have to move to somewhere where it's more popular to necessarily get some sort of enjoyment out of it.
That's cool.
I mean, I've taken several different martial arts since I was a child. I mean, my uncle is, I don't even know now, like a 10th degree black belt. He's been to Japan several times to qualify for that because they're a Japanese karate.
Yes.
And I started out with him. And then, I mean, Viola's father, Anthony and Jesse, Frank, we took kung fu classes in his basement when we were younger over his house. And I mean, he knew what he was doing. Nice. I mean, that was all when he was, you know, in his prime, you know?
Yeah.
It's something, I don't know, man. I love mechanical things. I love cars. I love guns. I just love anything I mean, that's the other part of it, is the hobby side.
Yes.
Like, I don't have to just go buy a complete rifle. I can build one. I can buy the parts individually, and I mean, like an adult's Lego set, just like a car. I mean, we're building a car. I'm rebuilding my truck. I've built a couple. Like, I enjoy the mechanical side of things and how they work, and it's nice to have examples on hand.
Yes.
For that, I understand that's probably not the majority position of why people do it, collecting or hobbyism, but it's another side of it. I mean,
it's fun, and it also kind of just builds up your your overall self-sufficiency.
skills, new skills, stuff. I mean, if you can understand how these things work, maybe, it betters you somehow.
Yeah, definitely. More experience, just kind of even just the process, like, of humbling yourself to something new and being bad at it for a while and kind of building up that skill set. Like, and that's like something I learned from like Joe Rogan too. And I know you said you and your brother are both fans of Joe, or kind of look up to him. And I wouldn't be doing this podcast if it wasn't for him. It's simple. And he talks about that too, just like the process of like him going through martial arts training and just the humbling the
joy of sucking at something.
Yes.
And being able to understand that you only suck because you don't know yet. Ignorance,
right,
not necessarily the inability to do so. It's there's multiple angles to it. I mean, that's why it's so ingrained in some of us. It's hard to even think about giving it up, because it's something grown up with, and just kind of, to me, I don't see any negative possible problem in my little microsphere of things. It's with everything, though. You
want to transition to talking a little bit about the coronavirus?
Yeah, we could.
Specifically, I want to talk about kind of this challenge that we have. Like, forget about the virus for a second, but like, how do we balance like individual versus states versus like federal rights? Like, where is that line? Like, what is appropriate? And like something that you mentioned, Tom Ritter, a couple times now. Like, when he was on the podcast, he said something about like I think he was calling like absolute freedom.
Yeah.
And like individual absolute freedom is definitely at odds with like governmental control. So like, where do we draw that line? Like, for example, right now we're all in like a stay-at-home order for like non-essential workers, and unless you're going to the grocery store for something that's like mission critical. So like, those kind of restrictions have been placed on us, and like, I think you can argue pretty effectively that it's for good reason, right? Because we're potentially in danger from spreading this to each other. But like, where is that line? And like, does it change? Does it shift as like these crises become a thing? And like, can we put it back like when it's done?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
Is, I mean, what was it? Franklin said something about, those who would give up liberty for freedom don't deserve either, or something to that effect. You're right. Where do the line would have to shift with it. And I mean, once again, it all goes back to who's in power and why. That word "why" again.
Right.
Why are they restricting your movements, and why are you allowing them to do so? And then why will they give them back to you if they don't have to?
Right.
I mean, it's one of those things. Just like I said with gun rights, it starts here and then it goes there, and then I mean, I understand it's all for the greater good, but what happens with the greater good becomes the minority of people, and now the greater good is the lesser good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what percentage of the population has to be self-quarantined or name your right to give up temporarily? At what point does it shift from being a good action to more of a, will we get that back if we give it up? type thing. It's a hard question to answer. I mean, I'm a very philosophical person. I mean, I would say that once a third of the people are getting kind of antsy and kind of like we are right now, I'd say 1 out of 3 people is a little like, well, like, what are we really, like, what's going on here? And when is it going to, they can't tell you when it's going to stop because it's a natural disaster. So you have no idea when it's really going to end. And you wouldn't know that it ended unless they told you it ended. I don't mean to get super conspiracy theory here, but
that's the route I want to take this too, is like, I don't think that like the virus is a conspiracy necessarily. Like, I don't believe that, but like I am like aware of how it can be used to take advantage of people. And I'm going to be very careful to like pay attention to those sort of things and speak out against them if I really see them starting to happen, you know?
Because just like 9/11, man, I was like, bomb those motherfuckers. That's what every single person said on 9/12.
Right.
Go do it. We didn't even think. We didn't even ask any questions.
Oh, we didn't ask anything.
Go do it. Yep. And look what happened. And look what we're still going through. Yeah. Not so much us, but the guys on the front lines, men and ladies as well. Yeah. It's still going on. 20 years later, it's still happening. When will it stop? When they tell us the threat is over. Well, how do we know if the threat's over? We're not going to go to Afghanistan or Iraq or Iran. We're not. No. We're not going to travel into the middle of New York City like Will Smith with his German Shepherd and find out if it's all really over or not. Like, we're not going to do that. We're going to have to rely on the people. We, the people, were granted these powers by God, whatever that is for you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You could burn the Constitution. The powers are not given by the piece of paper.
Right.
You know what I mean? They are inherently given to us at birth.
Right.
From the creators. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they could try to do something stupid and not give it back, but I don't think it's big business for them. It's sad to say.
They need us back to work because they make us working. I agree. Yeah. It is freaky though, you know? And just to kind of go back to the example of September 11th, like what, 3,000 people were killed that day, 3,000 civilians approximately, I think. And we're at like what, 8,000 Americans dead right now from this. Like if those 3,000 shaped our policy for 20 years and still going, like this 8,000 and count and climbing, it's probably going to hit 10 times that by the end of the month, you know? It's going to shape everything. It's going to shape our policies. People are going to use it to justify things they wouldn't normally justify. And I'm not saying good, bad, or different. I'm just kind of saying that we got to be aware and just really careful because people in panic can be easily taken advantage of.
Yes. Yes. That's the danger. I mean, we have to know, we have to be able to question it and be like, okay, enough is enough. Which like we would eventually have to start demanding like legitimate answers and not just watch the death toll climb on TV because I'm not saying like you said, it's not like this is not a real situation that we're going through. It's just, I mean, that number could be 100,000 right now. I haven't checked.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like 8,000 dead last I checked. And like 300,000 infected in the U.S., something like that, as of this day, whatever the hell day today is, Sunday, April 5th or something. Yeah. Yeah, and then like you have things like, because I'm like a conspiracy theory guy, and I have been for a while, so like I tend to like look at things through that lens. Like, what if I was like pulling strings behind the screens? Like, how would I be looking at the situation? So you have things like mass administration of vaccines. It's like, could that be against us? Like, is that a potential danger? Like, I understand why we need it so we can go about our normal lives again and not spreading this virus to each other and dying. But like, if that's used in a nefarious way against us, like, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, and you wouldn't even know, man.
I know.
We wouldn't know. That's the problem, is that you've got a country that is now, like, when this country was started, you had what, 13 friggin' original colonies with what,
Yeah.
like 100,000 people?
Yeah.
I mean, what was the population versus today? You're trying to do things on a scale that was, I mean,
Yeah.
unimaginable at that time. I mean, you're working with what data you have, and they worked with
Yeah.
what they had.
Yeah.
Now it's I wonder when it stopped becoming by the people, for the people, of the people, etc., and for the, guy who throws you $1 million, and for
Yeah.
the company that, lobbies for this, that, and the other for you to get.
Yeah.
Because they basically were puppets on a string, and we have to go to work, we have to support our families, we don't like trading a third of our lives, half of our waking life, basically,
Yeah.
for a piece of paper with no real value of any kind.
Yeah.
We're trading our lives away to do a lot of stuff with tax money. And it's scary when you think about how much money is actually coming in, and like, what is our national debt now? Like 900 trillion. Write that number down on a piece of paper and look at how ridiculous. That's like a Google. It's a made up friggin' number that does not occur in nature when you're talking finances and economy. It's how do you pay that debt off?
Yeah.
What's our GDP estimated over the next 50 years? Like, plus the debt's never going to go down.
No.
You couldn't have enough. I could give 100% of my income. We all could. We could give 100% of our income.
Yeah.
And it would never drop. So as far as the virus is concerned, and what rights we're willing to temporarily absolve for the greater good, I mean, it comes back to, at what point does the greater good become the greater bad?
Yeah.
And I mean, I think we're starting to see the repercussions of that now. People with no money, no way to pay their rent or their mortgage, or I mean, and I hate to say, like, this stimulus check that they're going to give people it's a good thing for the people that need it. I need it. I'm not really employed at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm just working because we're a small operation and we can't afford to not have a guy there. Like, I'm right. Volunteering my time and services in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, at what point do you say enough is enough, and we need a little more information to reevaluate kind of where we're going here?
Yeah. And I find it, like, deeply frustrating that the Trump camp and Trump himself, like, bang the drum of the economy so readily and steadily for, like, the last 6 months or what, a year or however long he's been saying, oh, it's the best economy ever, record-breaking economy, we've never had it so good. And then, like, it completely collapses. Like, nobody, like, I don't want to say nobody, but, like, so many people are living paycheck to paycheck. Like, companies are living paycheck to paycheck. Like, your landlord's living paycheck to paycheck. Like, if everybody's living, like, 1 week away from being bankrupt, like, that's not a booming economy. Like, what is that? That's like that's something that's, like, just teetering on collapse.
We've seen it. It goes up, it bursts, it comes back down, it normalizes. I mean, that's just the nature of the financial situation, the way our economy is set up.
Yeah.
I think it will go back up to near where it was after people have caught back up. It was good, but it's always been that fragile. It's a futures-based economy where we're spending dollars that aren't backed by shit. We are taking $1 million gambles on whether or not there will be enough corn 5 years from now. Like, it's like the tulips. And what was it, Holland? Like, the very first stock market crash, everyone was paying for shit with tulip bulbs. You ever hear about this?
No, I didn't know that. That's funny.
I think it was Holland or like the
Netherlands.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Their entire economy switched over to tulip bulbs, and the rarity of the color of the tulip was worth more versus, your standard pink or white. Funny. And people started buying them up, and now there were no tulips. Well, now you could buy tulips from next year's crop, and you see where it goes, because now you're buying something that doesn't exist yet.
Right, you're buying futures. Yeah,
exactly. Mm-hmm. And eventually, needless to say, the tulips didn't arrive, and everybody lost everything. I mean, there were some kids, I think, I don't know if it's true. There's a story like there were 7 brothers and sisters, very poor, and their father left them like a couple tulip bulbs, and somehow they became millionaires overnight while everyone else lost everything. I don't know if that's kind of like a moral fairy tale to it, or if it really happened. Mm-hmm. But I mean, a lot of people lost their shit over tulip bulbs, and that's how fragile the economy is always going to be, no matter what it's based on. It's when you're talking numbers like trillions, tens of trillions of dollars, there's what is worth that? What is worth that? Yeah. The philosopher's stone? I mean, what is really worth that much money?
Oh, that's funny.
Because it's that kind of funny, you know what I mean? It's
yeah.
I wish.
How would you rate or how would you grade our overall preparedness to deal with this crisis, and specifically like the Trump administration's preparedness to deal with this?
Not awesome.
Yeah.
Not horrible. Maybe like a C student. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And listen, people are criticizing, and maybe rightfully so, Trump for like, oh, it was one person coming from China, we're good. And they show the timelines, and it is kind of funny when you read it.
Yeah.
But if Trump does anything that I've never seen another politician do, it is actually speak his mind in relation to how he sees what's going on, as he really feels he needs to. I mean, it may be blunt and brutally honest and delusional at points, but at least he's doing what he said he would do, and he talks how he believes. He thought he had it under control when it was one person. And then he thought it was, I mean, half of the president's job is to placate the people and tell them it's going to be all right. I mean, let's not forget that is kind of part of the gig, you know? Now, whether he held on to that a little too long, and whether we needed a little more advance notice that like maybe this shit is a little more serious than you're making it out to be. I mean, yes, we certainly things could have been done differently, but hindsight's 2020, and it wasn't making the decisions, you know.
I find it frustrating too, because like you say, you know, part of his responsibility is to like placate the people and like help calm everybody down, but then like at some of the whatever they call it, the press briefing,
what have you,
update, task force update bullshit, whatever you want to call it. Like they ask him, like I remember like last week or week before that, like what do you have to say to the Americans who are like are afraid right now and like are kind of freaked out? And he like spazzed out on the reporter. It's like, bro, like answer the question, like just try to like say something that's like a little bit encouraging, and like try to be positive and like say something useful instead of just being like going on in attack mode, you know?
Yeah, I think it's hard though. We haven't been up there being attacked at that intensity. I mean, granted, that's what you signed up for.
For sure.
He knew it was going to happen. It was happening before he even got elected. I don't think he really thought he was going to win.
Yeah.
I don't know if he really genuinely thought like, hey, I'm going to be the next fucking president of the United States of America. I don't know if he seriously gave it any thought, because they've always been asking him like, oh, are you going to run for this, that, and the other? Will you run for president? Like you can check the clips from the 80s and stuff.
Yeah, lots of times he was asked about that. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't think if it was him or anyone else, I mean, we could sit here and debate all day whether things should have been done differently. Sure, they should have been.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get it. I get why people don't like him, and I get why people do like him. Like I said, I at least, hey, if he wants to rage out on Twitter at 2 a.m. directly to the people, I don't think that's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, if there's anything that I do like about Trump, I do like that he kind of just says whatever he's thinking and doesn't proofread it or care what you think. Or, I mean, I think we need more of that. We do it. You know what I mean? Why should he not do it? Why should Biden not do it? Why should Bernie not do it? And we're seeing they are doing it now. A lot of these people are using social media to their advantage a lot more than they used to. And I mean, if anything, I will say, you know, as a president, Trump has been good about just directly being like, yo, fuck you. I don't care what you have to say. Or, I mean, that's why a lot of people voted for him. They were tired of being promised one thing and then having it flipped around on them immediately. And it happens. I don't think we've had a real deal president that cared since World War II. I don't know if we really have. I mean, maybe JFK would have, but then there's that.
They took care of that, though, didn't they?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was squashed real quick.
Yeah, they nipped that in the bud quick. Yeah, I know what you're saying. He's under a lot of pressure and stuff. I get it.
Like I said, he can't bitch about it, though, because, you know, you want to be an F1 driver, you better be able to drive under stress. I mean, it's just how it is.
Yep.
But he thrives off of that in a way. And, I mean, they say, what, serial killers, psychopaths, and successful billionaire-type moguls like him are kind of brain imaging wise almost kind of identical, and it's just a slim line of what you choose to do with that manic energy you have.
Yep.
Thank God at least he went this way, because if he was as successful at the other as he was at making hotels, we would have had a Grim Reaper times 10 million. Yes. He's a different type of person. I'll say that.
It kind of reminds me of where we started this earlier in this podcast of like engaging with people online and taking a shortcut and like insulting them. Like I kind of feel like he represents that shortcut. Like people were like, well, I'm sick of this shit and I don't really want to like dive into the nuance and the complexity of this. Like this guy's saying it's bullshit. Like it must be bullshit. I'm down with that. Like let's take, and it's like, to me, it feels like a shortcut, and it's like becoming obvious now, or increasingly obvious, that shortcuts don't really work that great, you know?
No, they don't. But if it's genuinely how you feel, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
And people may hate him more because it may be genuinely how he feels. It might not be the get out fast card, and it may just be that's just how he is. I mean, I have not seen to the contrary, really. I mean, all I have to go off of is what I've seen, and what I've seen has been pretty consistent. And I mean, I understand it's definitely not politically correct, and it is not sensitive, and it is not factual sometimes. It is not, but I mean, what is reality? What is real? You know what I mean? It's different from person to person, and he may be delusional to you, but to him, he's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I'm saying the same thing about Biden and even Bernie. And
how do you feel about Biden? You like Biden?
I don't know if anyone really does. I think Joe's a decent guy.
Yeah. I don't know anybody who likes Biden personally.
No, I don't either. I haven't talked to a single person that does. I mean, listen, would I sit down and maybe have dinner with them? Sure, I'd have a beer with the guy.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would. I don't know. I don't know anyone that does.
Like speaking of like conspiracy theories, like it's weird that you have this guy like, you know, about to, you know, go up against Trump potentially for the president of the United States. And I don't know a single person that's like excited about Biden. Like I don't know anybody. Am I like isolated in like my echo chamber that I just am not in tune with these people, or what is going on? Like I know people who still like Trump and like for some reason still defend Trump and like all that. And I know lots of people who like Bernie Sanders, but I don't know a single person who's like pro Biden.
Well, that's the thing. Biden is kind of old school, right in the middle of the two. You've got two completely opposite ends of the spectrum represented as they want it to be. I mean, you would need someone like Bernie or AOC or name your guy or gal to go up against Trump simply based on the fact that, you know, you would need an equally powerful and strong, devoted whatever to counteract. I mean, you know, it's almost like Newton's 3 laws of physics. You know, if it's at motion, it stays at motion unless acted on by an outside force, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. I mean, you need someone that's that. Trump is kind of counterculture now. I think a lot of people feel like being a conservative is now a counterpoint versus the standard that used to be. I mean, it seems like they feel attacked, and like I get it. Yeah. But it's not like we haven't all thrown some shit around over the past several years. And this is going to happen no matter who gets elected. It's now I've never broke down and cried because my candidate lost en masse. I've never seen that before. I was honestly kind of shocked. I didn't have a horse in the race, so I really didn't care either way. Like I did, but
what are you referencing? Like when the 2016 election?
Yeah, the 2016 when Trump beat Hillary, it was kind of like that shocking to some people that America would want to go in that direction. I think it was just, it caught a lot of people off guard when I don't think it should have. I don't know.
Well, again, it goes back to like our echo chambers. Like you are part of like your specific echo chamber. So like you probably get to talk to people more often than, let's say, somebody who lives in like New York City or Los Angeles or whatever. Like you get to talk to people who identify with that conservative nature, or like are pro-Trump, or like the way that he talks or whatever. Where like if you're in your echo chamber of New York, you don't talk to anybody who likes him.
Everyone is on your side of the argument, you know, and I get that, but that's, I mean, once again, it goes back to, I think local politics and state level politics are where it's at, and we need to stop I mean, the president is only one part. He or she is only a small piece of the puzzle. It doesn't, they can't really, I mean, yeah, they have certain powers to do what they want here and there, and we've seen that being taken advantage of more and more in the past several years than maybe in the day, but it's either that or we're more aware of it, and for some reason we have a problem with it now, which we didn't before. Yeah. I sit right in the middle, man. I really do. I'm not pro-Trump. I'm not anti-Trump. I don't hate him for being who he is. He is who he is. That's who the president is. That's who he is. And when it goes the other way, which it will eventually, I'll be just as happy to call that person the president, regardless of whether I totally agree or not, because I don't think the president is the issue here. I mean, now, you know, senators and, you know, congressmen and women, like that's, and the judges, like there are two other big bodies there to counter.
The other branches too, right? And that's something when I had the podcast with Turner a couple of days ago, he kind of made the argument that the power is in the Senate, and
it basically is.
And the corruption there needs to be dealt with. You know?
I would get rid of every single one, man. We need a clean slate. It's the only way to do it. I mean, you have people that are 70 years old telling a 30-year-old person a lifetime ago what they should or shouldn't do, and they're out of touch, really, with what I think most Americans really want. We don't want it to be all the way over here and we don't want it to be all the way over there. We don't. You don't. I don't. I know that that's a fact.
Right.
But we play their game because we kind of have to. Like I said, I can't even vote in the primary because I'm registered independent. So unless we get an independent candidate with some friggin' real oomph behind them.
If you could vote in it, who do you like better, Sanders or Biden?
Sanders, probably over Biden. I disagree with some of Bernie's policies more than Biden, but I just on the social side of things, and I am more socially liberal and maybe constitutionally conservative, I guess.
Okay.
If we were talking about pro-choice, I'm more pro-choice than pro-life and pro. It sounds so horrible, but I don't know if Biden just doesn't seem like he has the passion for it. Yeah. I think he's running because the establishment had to throw somebody in there to try and like nail down, like you said, like all the senators, it's so corrupt, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think they're afraid of losing that. So they were like, well, shit, he's been the vice president, so he's got that going for him. Let's throw him out there.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's genuinely ready. Yeah, I think he might have been at one time. I think Bernie is kind of past his prime, not to be mean to him. Yeah. I think it's been a while since I considered Bernie, like, he's gone more left than he did in the past. Mm-hmm. I understand why, because like I said, if you're going to go against Trump, you need to be at least, it's just sad that we're that split in half where we have to think about accepting the evils that are necessary. Like I said, with this stimulus bill, like all the bullshit that was thrown in there.
Yeah.
Like bills should have one item voted on and that's it. You want to give the people $1,200 who are out of work because of this? Yeah. That's that. You know what I mean? Don't throw a bunch of other gobbledygook in the mix just because that's what needs to be done to pass it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of embarrassed that the Republicans were like, well, we don't like what's happening here, but I guess we got to do it. That's basically, I watched it. I watched the vote. And and that's what every single one of them said. Well, we don't agree, but, well, then why are you doing it? If you don't agree and it is a counter principle, why are you voting yes? Yes, I could use $1,200 right now, but
it's the same thing like with 9/11, where like they feel like they're forced to because we're under pressure.
Yes.
You're forced to do something you wouldn't normally do. Like you wouldn't normally vote for war, but you feel like, oh, we have to go for war because we were just attacked. So like you kind of justify it in your head. And then who knows, maybe you find out later that it wasn't what you thought it was. But your vote is already cashed in, so
pretty done, right?
Yeah. So back to Sanders. Like, what specifically, policy-wise or whatever, about him do you not agree with? I just want to try to see if I can nail it down.
Policy issue. It's the combination of things like he said, like, oh, well, free college. Medicare for everyone. If you do that, I'm worried about the financial. How are we going to really, because everyone's got plans and they're like, here's the 23 steps that will enable us to do this or that. But when we're this much in debt already, what's my paycheck going to look like if I have to pay? I'm already past kind of the college age, not that I couldn't go back if I wished to. I think there's like, someone else has said on your show, there's only so many college graduate positions available. It's the new trade school, but now we're seeing that a shift back to the trades are kind of, because it's just been ping-ponging around.
Yeah.
It used to be the thing you did was go to college after you graduated high school. Right. And now we're realizing that like you still need iron workers and bricklayers and road paving crews. Like you still need that stuff.
Right. Not everybody can like go to the library and make their living off of ideas.
I can go read a book about how to do this, that, and the other if I really am interested in the subject. I just don't know how. I don't know if enough research has been done to say this is definitively what is going to positively happen and negatively happen if we give everyone healthcare free, not free, but everyone gets it. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of people in this country, and if you literally just by birthright handed out money in the form of healthcare, college, whatever, I don't know if the real long-term effects of that can even be known, per se. I mean, what's the birth rate going to be over the next 20 years? What's the death rate going to be? How many people are going to move from here to there, and how many are going to come and leave? Like, there's so many factors that I don't know how much more my paycheck I'm willing to give up at this point in time. I'm overly cautious about it, Jordan. That's really all.
Sure.
I don't disagree with the theories and the principle that it's backed on. I just don't know. I don't know how we could responsibly just promise something for the next 100 years, like ever indefinitely. I see it getting overturned and or canceled out with the next round of elections 8 years from now, or 16, however, you know what I mean? It's
going to be hard to put it back in the bag. Like we were saying before, you open Pandora's box and you give everybody universal health care. It's going to be hard to take that away. I understand that. But I guess my question to you is, like, do you have private insurance?
No.
You don't have any?
No, I am uninsured.
So, like, if you were to go out hunting and you break your ankle, like you break your ankle, like what, like it's going to cost you like $10,000 or something to like deal with that, you know?
It is. And I mean, like, I've dealt with it. And I mean, like, I've had injuries at work where I had to go in and get 10 stitches and pay the $285. I mean,
yeah,
I think health care and health insurance, I think we lock them in as the same thing. You have car insurance, but you don't have car care. You know what I mean? Like, if your spark plugs fail, you don't automatically get new spark plugs. You have to go buy them.
Right.
I think if you were to just have primary care, we've tried to lump it all in as one thing, and that's a lot of money. Like, you're right. Insurance is for things you cannot foresee happening. I'm a smoker. I'm probably going to face some sort of repercussion down the road because of that. And I understand that. But unfortunately, at this point in my life, like, I kind of don't really have any other option. It's too expensive for me, at least for how I see me and my money and how I budget.
Yeah.
It's way too expensive for my employer. It would cost him like 10 times as much to do it for me. He's like, I'd rather just give you a raise and put it in a different bank account and, like, use it to buy it or whatever, which, I mean, we can get to that.
Yeah.
I don't, it all comes down, like, I'm kind of putting myself at jeopardy by not having it.
Right.
But I am also trying to actively take steps to make sure that whatever happens is not going to happen.
Yeah. And
let's
go back to that. Like, you break your ankle, right? You got to go to the hospital. You got to get x-rays. You got to get a cast. It takes multiple doctor's visits. You're in the emergency room. Let's say you rack up a $10,000 bill in total, let's say you can't pay that. Like, you only have $1,500 in the bank. You just can't pay it. Like, what do you, like?
If I couldn't pay it, I don't know, because I can. Like, I'm able to, I do make enough, and I do have a little, like, I have kind of thought about this. Yeah. But I chose to instead put the money in a different basket, so to speak.
Sure.
Then, I mean, I'm gambling. That, if I couldn't, then yeah, totally. I get it.
But like, if you only had, let's say you only had like $11,000 and your bill is $10,000. You're really going to cash in your $10,000 for this broken ankle? You know,
you gotta. I mean, if what are you going to do? Not pay it?
So I mean, I think it's just a bad structure. Like the setup is poor.
It is, but it's the best I have to work with at the moment. But what if I broke that ankle and you had to pay the bill? Like, how much are you willing to give me? Like, are you going to throw $500 in a GoFundMe? You know, that's the other side of the coin.
Right.
Really.
Or what if we all paid like a small percentage, let's say 4%, which was what I believe Bernie Sanders' plan was. And that way, if you break your ankle or I break my ankle, we're covered.
Good. I mean, it's not a bad idea at face value. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I just don't know how it's going to go down. And like you said, once it's there, when does that 4% become 8? And when does that 8 become 12.5? And at what point do you stop it? But, oh, wait, you can't, because it's guaranteed to you. It's just like the gun rates. They're all slippery slopes to kind of. I wish I had a definitive. It's not good, or it's a good idea. Like I said, do you trust them to only take that 4% and only use it for said healthcare of said individual? I mean, right. I don't get an itemized deductible list of what the government spent my however many thousands of dollars. I wish we could. I know it's kind of almost impossible to do such a thing because we're spending so much money on so much stuff. Like, you know, how many rounds of ammo did you buy the Army, and how many quarts of blood did you give FEMA? And it's kind of a ridiculous thing to ask, but
yeah,
I'm just leery of giving anyone the power to say, like, hey, this is how much we need from you now, and I'm sorry, but it's for your own good, which, yes, maybe it is. I would allow people, if he allowed everyone to just say, no, I would rather not, thank you, but I'll pass. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
But then if you do pass and you get your break your ankle and you owe $10,000 and you can't pay it, then everybody ends up paying for your shit anyway. So like that's the problem, is that the system is like structurally flawed because people can just not pay, and what are they going to do? Declare bankruptcy? You're not even allowed to do that, you know? Or no, you are allowed to do that, but you can't do that with your student loans. Excuse me.
The system is structured horribly. The whole thing needs a makeover.
Right.
Now, I'm not, like I said, I'm not against the Medicare for all idea. Yeah, you want to take 3.89% of my paycheck and I'm good. Yep. I'm okay with that. It's just like we said,
yeah. I think really what the problem is
I've not made my mind up on it yet.
Yeah, sure.
Really is what I'm saying. But
I think really what the problem is, and this is like the theme for a lot of the things that we're dealing with here, is like, if you had to pay 4%, I don't know how much you make. Let's just pick a number. Let's just say it's $50,000. 4% of $50,000 is only $2,000.
Yeah.
Like if you have to pay that every year, you can live. But if you make $10 million a year and you got to pay 4% on $10 million, that's $400,000 for your medical.
You may never get sick. You may never chip a fingernail. You may never have to go to the eye doctor. You may never lose a tooth. Then what?
Yeah. But people,
you know what I mean?
You know?
I think if you want to give that money up in that scenario, then you should be able to. But then, like I said, like, do you get some kind of rebate if you didn't need to use it? Like, there's got to be like an in the middle type of solution. Like, what if it was prorated so that the longer you went without a claim, as your car insurance does, the amount would drop over time.
I'm for that. I mean, I'm for good incentives built in, like for healthy habits, you know.
It's an option.
You know, not if you can get a break for like certain healthy habits, whether it's like not smoking or not drinking or not being overweight or whatever, 10 different things that you can get a break on. I'm for good incentives like that, you know, if you can structure it well.
Yeah. Well, that's all. I think I definitely agree that we need to overhaul how things are being handled. I'm just one of those, I don't want the federal government. I was not a fan of Obamacare simply because he said, if you don't do this, I'm going to fine you.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of like, all right, well, you know, we want to go do whatever, but if you don't feel like going and doing it, you have to still give us money so we can go and do it. Right. That's just kind of where.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Bernie's plan is identical to that, because it is obviously, you know what I mean? But who comes along next, and where does the progression of the policy, like, where does it go eventually?
Yeah.
We're just in such a uneasy time. I don't know. People are afraid to give up more for the promises of better or something or this. And like I said, like, what if nothing happens? That's what I'm banking on. Right. I know it's a stupid bet, because odds are, before I die, something is going to happen, and I will go to a doctor. I'm banking on it being something minor enough that I can do it. And listen, if I have lung cancer and I'm going to die, I am not going to say, rack up $300,000 and then top me off. You know what I mean? I'm going to just say, pull the plug, dog. Like, I don't live miserable anyway. I mean, I would like to see it start off at a number and then maybe decrease over time, depending on, like you said, high risk type behaviors. Not only that, but also just in general, because they don't need that much money from and like you said, like, if you make $100 million and you never get sick, well, you just basically supported everyone else when you could have done something else with that money, or you could have,
Right. And that's the problem that we're in right now, is that you have this small percentage of super rich people who are against these sort of policies because it's going to cost them more money. And then you have all these people at the bottom who are like, I'm underinsured, or without insurance, and I can't afford any of my bills. If I get in any sort of medical predicament, I'm not going to be able to afford it. It's going to bankrupt me and my family. Like, we have to be able to come to terms with all of those things, you know?
Listen, if I had a wife and kids, I would be doing things much differently. I can tell you that for sure. But I am a single dude in his mid-30s, and I mean, I work a lot. Odds are, if I get hurt, it's going to happen at work, and it's going to fall under workers' comp, and I'll be good on that insurance policy. You know what I mean? So
I know what you're saying.
I work a lot too, so it's like, could I fall down the stairs at my house? Yes, very possible. But odds are I'm going to fall jumping into a ditch at work and tripping on a pile of gravel, and that's what's going to break my wrist. I've thought about it. I'm not trying to be careless and put others' pockets or whatever at risk. Like, I have thought about it. You know, some people don't. They're just like, fuck it, whatever. Yeah, I'm not that kind of person. You know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be against it. It's just, I don't know. It's one of those things. You give them a little bit, and then do they take a little more, and then what? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a crime too that health insurance is so entwined.
Well, why does a Tylenol cost $87?
Wait, say that again.
Why does a Tylenol cost like $75?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they charged me $38 for the wrap around my hand. Yo, I could go to Dollar General and buy it for $3 right now, the whole roll.
Yeah.
I think we need to stop and address that shit before we talk about how much of our money we're going to give up for something that may or may not happen in our futures. The system needs an overall, like, Why? If the insulin creators patented it and gave it out for free, kind of like free license to, open source your creation, why is it so expensive? You know what I mean? Like they tried to do the right thing.
Yeah.
But people took advantage of it, and look at where we're at now. I just worry that would happen to the whole system if we said, hey, here's for the greater good once again, and someone's always gonna get screwed. The way that we are doing things, the way we are doing them and have been doing, someone's gonna be left holding the bag inevitably. Yeah. I don't think anyone wants to be that guy holding it. But at the same time, like you said, well, you got people who can't even afford to feed their families, and they're like, yo, you're making $100 million a year. You can't like donate $1 million to like help people in your community.
Yeah.
Listen, if I was that rich, I would guarantee that everyone in my home city is good. I would love to see people actually do it out of the kindness of their own hearts, which we are kind of seeing with this coronavirus deal.
Sure. Lots of people making big money donations.
Yep. They are, and it's good, and I'm glad to see it. Yeah. It sucks that it takes this type of thing when you could have been doing it all along. Like, isn't that why you want to like grow up and be successful, to like help everyone that's helped you along the way and give back? Like, you can't take it with you.
Nope.
So why not? It's a complicated. It's simple. It's not.
It is.
Like, are they going to use that money for what they say they're going to use it for indefinitely? And I never have to question it. Yeah. It's not a bad idea. I would just like to see the bigger problem of why it costs $5 for something in the private sector, and why if you go to the hospital it costs $500. Like, why? That's the reason that insurance is so expensive. It's not that it costs that much to take care of something like a broken ankle. It doesn't. It's probably $87 worth of shit, physical stuff. And then, the doctor needs to make money. He spent money to go to college and learn how to fix your shit. I get it. They deserve that wage, but I don't get the price gouging on like the stitches should cost 25 cents, but they cost $212. Like,
right.
That's where the problem is. The problem is not that I can't afford it. The problem is that someone on the other side, 3 steps removed, is being a little too greedy. Mm-hmm. If we, I don't know who those people are or how you get to them.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
It's an interesting problem. But listen here, we're past our 2-hour mark here, so we're gonna have to wrap it up here. Anything for me? Anything else before we wrap it up?
No, man. Just take care of you and yours, and
fine.
We all got to hang in there. That's all. And try to figure it out. We're smart individuals, all of us. I mean, everyone's got something they could bring to the table. Yep. We need to stop casting people aside simply because they may not agree with us on 95% of stuff. That 5% may be more important than all the other junk.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Agreed.
all I can really say,
Yeah. Man. Yeah, it's interesting times right now. We'll get through it, We'll get through it.
Oh, we will eventually, We'll see.
All right, brother. It was good talking to you. Thanks for coming on the show. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me.
Take care of yourself. Tell your family I said hello.
Will do. You do the same, man.
All right. Peace out, brother.
Peace, dude.